retrieve the enrollments objects, right, from the database, and they have values that are referencing other documents. But ideally, I will be able to retrieve those documents embedded or as part of this result of this query. And typically in the relational database, the way you do that is you join the enrollment table with the student. Maybe I want the student name, right, and the student username or whatever, or I like to know the section ID or I know I have the section ID. I like to know the name of the section. So how do we do that? So to do that, in the find enrollments, this find, right, we can do other things. We can extend this and say find, this retrieves the data, but you can also ask to populate. Right, populate is somewhat the equivalent of join, saying, hey, you know that student field there? Well, I only have the ID really stored there. Why don't you go ahead and populate the content of that field with the actual value, right, of the student objects, right? So what we can do here is that we can say populate as a string. I can say student. Populate the student field, right? Meaning go back to the database, use that ID, do another query, right? Find the object and then populate it and replace it here. So let's try it out. We're going to say exec. Exec means that there's going to be several transformations other than just the plain find, right? We're going to be compiling several other additional operations that are going to go back to the server for data. And you can string together several populate, sort, groups. You can do all sorts of string together several operations, and then they get compiled and then executed all at once. So let's try it out. So if we go back and rerun this from the command line, right? Notice now that this is much more interesting. Notice that we went out and now the student field, instead of just having the primary key, it has been now replaced with with an object that represents the object that is for that particular ID. Okay, same thing for every one of them. This is basically the equivalent of achieving the same as doing a join, right? Basically, we've joined together the enrollment table or the enrollment collection with the student, right? We can go a little further and ask to populate other things. We can say, populate also the section, right? And so if we rerun that, right, it goes out and now we have a three-way join, right? It's joining the enrollment collection with the student collection with the section collection, right? And it's populating the values that we want there. Now, sometimes we don't want everything. Maybe because the student could have lots and lots of additional fields, and maybe we don't want to retrieve everything. This could become fairly expensive. So you can as a separate argument, right? Ask which fields do you actually want. Maybe you just want the username. No, but for the section, we just want the name, and for the student, you want the username, right? So you can specify as a comma-separated list only the fields that you want to populate, and so you would only be given, right, which fields you asked for. So only the username, only the name of the section, and so on and so forth. So fairly powerful.